Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Brotherhood of Liberty. We are reporting live from the White House lawn. Today at this historic event, I am pleased to introduce a colleague from across the Pacific, a member of the Chinese National Public Radio, and I now turn over my microphone duties to that individual.
We are here at the historic summit meeting between Premier Hu stole my cow of the People's Republic of China and President George Walker Bush of the United States of America. And they have now entered onto the White House lawn and are walking down to the podium. I can see that President George Bush is a very, very short man, and that Premier Hu is a very, very tall man. He must be 7 feet tall. And they are now climbing towards the podium. And they have reached it now. And President Bush is climbing up on several very thick telephone books. And Premier Hu is now talking.
一向怀有友好感情。1784年，美国的商船“中国皇后号” 发洋过海，首航中国，揭开了两国人民友好交往的序幕。19世纪中叶，数以万计的中国工人和美国人民一起逢山开路，雨水。
Mr. President, I'm beginning to smell a big fat commie ring.
I have to say there was fake news that was actually not
Jim Acosta,
not us. Yes, it was Jim Acosta and Jake Tapper.
That was right. That was not us.
That was not us at all.
That's not from the archive.
That is not from the archives, not at all. But it does kick us off on our very interesting segment that we have this time, brother.
This is the China Watch.
This is the China Watch.
Oh, and one more thing too. Look, there's been a complaint already. This is not Wawa. So when you start the boycotts, you can now look.
It's plain paper cup.
But look, you can start your boycotts, but you can now boycott Starbucks.
That place that's I don't know. I think there's a copy infringement there, bro.
Why? We're not infringing. We're telling them to boycott. For all the boycotters out there, you can now boycott Starbucks.
Political speech, yeah.
Because it is not Wawa.
Not Wawa.
All right.
So we have a very interesting discussion here, brother. We have the Utopia vision of the future. What the those on the far left really would see as a benefit to the American way for them. They have an example, the standard bearer, I believe, from those people across the Pacific, as was mentioned in our opening, in China. There's some definitive things that would keep control of the individual. China has a couple of things, brother, that they've been doing in order to take control of their country, their citizens, and be aggressive in the international arena as well against international competitors such as the U.S. They are wanting to knock us over. There's no doubt about it. They are not living the globalized belief of working together, partnering with other people. That is a facade. They want to dominate other people. That's their way of working together in globalization.
Well, what about the globalist? Who's the premier globalist horseface?
It's pretty hard to beat. It's pretty hard to identify who the premier one is.
Who wants to be? He wrote the book "The World Is Flat," although we all know the world is round.
Yeah, I don't know who.
Freeman, horseface Freeman.
Didn't he?
Quick, look him up.
Yeah, no, but
doesn't he want us all to be China? If we could just be China.
Well, China has a new plan in place, which has been reported repeatedly by places such as CBS News, who show us that they're more. China is looking to gain control of its citizens through the credit system, having a system.
Net neutrality.
Well, not just it's
Chinese version of net neutrality.
It's not that at all. It's life neutrality. It's entire this idea of you having to be a good citizen. You have to be a good little communist, John. Because if you're not a good little communist, you're going to find yourself on the bottom end of the credit scale. And if you're on the bottom end of the credit scale, you lose access to flying to different places because you're seen as dangerous. You're seen your kids can't get into the private school, so it's affecting the kids. Your kids can't get into certain schools. You have to accept certain positions. You have bad credit. Everything that we associate with bad credit is what they associate, and even more, because you wouldn't necessarily have a child who had bad credit not be able to get into a school.
So
school.
Bad credit in China equals medical care.
Medical, it means lesser medical care, not the you get the state minimum.
So it's the next level of Obamacare then.
It's beyond. I think it's actually.
I think it's the next level of Obamacare.
It's beyond that simply because
I think it's the next thing. Once they figure out that's what they'll do.
But it's also
rationalized care.
When I say a good communist, I'm not just saying you got to say nice things. They're talking about your behaviors as well. If you smoke in public in places that you're not supposed to smoke, you're seen as a threat. If you are if you're doing any type of thing, crossing the street outside the crosswalk, you're seen as a threat. If you do any of these non-traditional things that they want you to do, these things follow the laws that they've created, and they can create any law they want because they're the Communist Party. Meanwhile, on the environmental front, not necessarily.
Well, what the hell are we supposed to do, you moron? You're all worthless and weak. Now drop and give me 20.
See, I can't stop it. You can only get one.
Yeah, well, it's okay. It's okay. But on an environmental front, China has has actually worked very hard about taking the CFCs. Remember the CFCs from when we were kids, about how there was a big the thing with the ozone layer.
The fake environmental.
Ozone. The ozone layer was eroding, and they said it was because of the CFC. So they actually
they found out that it's always had a hole up there, probably historically.
And
all that has done nothing.
And it was coming back, recently.
It has nothing to do with what we do.
It was coming back until China started using CFCs in their population, and they're not doing anything to curb it. So
this man is obviously a psychotic.
What do you know from funny, you bastard?
What? I say that?
I don't know. You get the 7 words.
7 words. I gotta go find out. Bastard is not bad because anybody can be a bastard.
That's true. Hamilton was.
Right. Hamilton was a bastard.
Yeah. So, but anyway, from in other perspectives, China is also being very, very aggressive on the international front, brother.
But wait a minute. We're not done yet with the credit thing.
Yeah.
And the environmental thing, because you didn't know. I don't know if it was reported in the news because it's not reported in the news. But did you know who's the leading economy meeting their goals for cleaning up the environment?
Mm-mm.
Of course, it's the United States of America. Even though we're not in that stupid Paris Accord. And why is that? Let's see if you remember your economic history.
Enlighten me, brother.
All right. It's called the law of the commons, right? The law of the commons is economic theory. You cannot, if you have a common area, what happens is it degenerates into a complete a garbage heap. Why? Because nobody takes care of it. Why? Because nobody has responsibility.
Right.
So socialism, one of the reasons why socialism will never work is because of this. It's the law of economics. Well, now what happens when you do the exact opposite of that, what you have in the U.S. system, where you have rights. You actually have rights. And when you have rights and you have right to property, you take care of your own stuff. You clean up your own stuff.
Right.
Therefore, who's the best world leader in cleaning up their environment? The United States of America. So we lead the world. Why is that? Because we have the highest levels of actual maintaining property of your properties. You hold it against all comers, and therefore we take care of our own stuff, and you clean up your own environment. And so it's no accident that the worst so-called environmental polluters actually are destroying the environments are the Soviet Union, China, places like that, where the law of commons in communism are one and the same, and that they don't take care of their environment, and it degenerates further. But why is it? What got me? What you're talking about is what is this credit system that you're talking about. I do not understand what you mean. What are you talking about?
But
you're talking about an actual
credit score. You have a credit score.
Like right now, I have no credit because the ex-wife uses my credit cards. Right?
It runs it up and then doesn't pay.
So nothing happens to me. I'm not getting thrown in a debtor's prison, right?
No, you are subject to all the negatives that come with.
But you're saying it's not going to be economic.
It's not just.
You're saying it's being political.
It's political, and it's if you're not a good little communist. In other words, if you speak out against communism, you're going to find yourself losing credit and having less access to the fundamental things you need in order to survive. And your kids will suffer as well. So the CBS actually has an example of a journalist who didn't write kind things about the government, this Chinese journalist, and he got slammed. His kids, he can't travel in an airplane. He can't. Not only can he not travel on an airplane, but he can't get his kids into a private school. So the idea here is that if you want to have access to all these wonderful things, you have to actually follow their rules to the extent that if you don't, you'll be suffering. And it's not just, again, this is not just simple rules like, oh, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, which is common societal rules that you should have in place. These are, if you speak negatively about the premier, if you speak negatively about the party, if you complain about the party. So in a country like ours, where we pride ourselves on being able to have free political speech, unless you're a congressman, in which you want to shut down people from having political speech by accusing them.
Hey, you, come on over here and fight like a man. It's on the reflex. Now, this really pisses me off.
You were looking for that one for a while.
No, I couldn't. The problem
Trouble in Little China.
No, you're very good, very good. But the other ones are locked out. I was actually an officer and gentleman going, I think you're the kind of guy who would take off your F-14 and sell it to Cubans. Mayo. But I can't do it because it's not supported. What the heck's going on with this?
Sorry, brother.
I'm bringing my laptop next time, you high-tech. Watch.
I'm sorry.
I'll show you.
The power cord was missing for that.
All right, whatever. I'll show you some high-tech.
It is.
You wait till you come down to Fortress Liberty.
All right, I'll take
It's
that.
Fortress Independence stuff up here.
Yeah, I know, but you do have something to use. Look on the positive. In China, you probably would have that taken away by now with the stuff you said in the last couple of segments.
Yeah. So that's what. So it's actually hooked up to it. I think it's Obamacare. What's the difference between that? That's the next level of Obamacare.
It's interesting you should say that, John, because with the mandate that has been allowed by the Supreme Court, where you can be forced into commerce, you now. It's very little. There is a difference, of course. There's a difference. There's China and there's the United States, but the difference is rapidly diminishing as we are being forced to keep our mouths shut about stuff. This is political. This is a political attack, against the Chinese people. This is a political, moral, and economic attack against the Chinese people. And it's not just that. Christians and any religious group that's independent of the government. And that's what communism has to be. Communism has to control everything. And just like they did in Russia, China has to control the communists. So the Tibetan monks, the Christians, the Muslims, if you are a avowed Christian or any of those religious groups, your credit score drops, John.
Your credit score.
Cowboy, get that man out of that jug.
He say he not Kong. We make him say he Kong.
God damn it, cowboy, do you hear me?
He say he not Kong. We make him say he Kong.
How about it?
So this persecution, John, and there's stories of how Christians when they would want independent Christians, meaning not those who have to sign the paperwork that they're loyal Chinese citizens to the government, to the Communist Party. If you're having the traditional Christian service, what's this?
You seem to know what you're doing.
Well, thank you.
Drink always. To the U.S. of A. I thank you.
If you have a Christian service, a traditional Christian service, they would actually have volunteers stand at the doors waiting to slow down the Chinese police from coming in. Because if you have these police breaking through the doors, those who are inside want to be able to have the opportunity to get away. And so they have volunteers stand at the doors to, in essence, sacrifice themselves so that the people inside can freely practice their religion. This is the state of China. This has been the state of China, and let us not forget that this is the same place where, when the political speech was being said in Tiananmen Square, they not only sent tanks, and it's a wonderful picture of the guy stopping the tanks, but they never show, the media never shows what the next couple scenes that happen days later, which is where the tanks come rolling in and people are slaughtered by the thousands because they're protesting the government.
So what you're saying is what we need to do is find loopy Thomas Friedman, who wants us to be just like China, and put some sunglasses on him, or put some glasses on him.
This goddamn fluoride nitwit. Sir, the Uniform Code of Military Justice expressly forbids summary executions.
That's more like it.
But summary execute that idiot. Well, I can't say that.
Well, I think what he should.
Well, if we were in China, that's what they would do.
Exactly. If we were in China, although he would be completely acceptable. John, you got this all wrong.
What kind of fool?
He would be completely acceptable in China. His score rating would be in the 900s or whatever the top of the line is. He would probably have his own jet.
Very generous.
They would be very generous. They would be extremely generous.
That was a good one.
Golf club, brother, golf club.
All right.
But yeah, no, they would be extremely generous to him because he's towing the party line. All right,
we didn't talk about any of the military stuff.
No,
we'll have
that's
to do
okay.
That one another one.
No. Very quickly, I can just say, just recently, the U.S. destroyer Decatur went into the South China Sea, and there is a large movement of those South China Sea countries, such as Philippines, Vietnam, and Taiwan, who are more interested in cozying up with somebody outside of China because they're afraid of China. And this is what we need to keep in mind. The fear that China is putting into its neighbors is something that we as a country, if we had had a Democrat, if Obama had been the third term Obama, Hillary, or anybody, it could have been Bernie, it could have been anybody who third term Obama.
Bernie?
Could have been Bernie, yeah. My buddy from my book that you got me, brother. But the third term Obama would have been doing what they've been doing for the last two terms. They would have been
socialism is not communism.
They would have been sucking up to the Chinese, and they would be ignoring it. This is an opportunity for Trump to build some type of a South China Sea alliance to stand up to
CETO. They used to call it CETO.
Not only economically to the power of China, but
historically
militarily to the power of China.
For Vietnam, which is why we love the movie we should do a thing where identify the movie where this all comes from.
Yeah, we should.
We should do something like that.
We should do a game show on that.
But all our references, that's one of the things that we should do. But this is, of course, from the great Burt Lancaster in Go Tell the Spartans, one of the great Vietnam stories. But in the history, what was the NATO of Southeast Asia? It was CETO.
CETO, yeah.
Which long since fallen away.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And you can see though, Trump's. He's upping the military. He's upping. My understanding, my watching of China is that we're going to start having problems after 20, because in 20 they run out of coal, and when they run out of their own domestic coal, then it's going to be Japan Part 2. Their Navy is now catching up to ours. Trump wants to update the Navy. The problem is they're building carriers, which are useless nowadays, or almost useless, and they take all the resources, and what we need are ships. China is now building ships on land. They're building a ship on the model on the land, so they don't have to keep going through different iterations to learn about it. But they're building generation after generation after generation, where we keep going after technology that then Dianne Feinstein gives to her to her chauffeur to give to, or her husband to sell to the Chinese. And we don't have version after version after version upgraded of ships. We have one version, the Arleigh Burke class,
which is the Decatur,
and that'll stay there. It'll stay there forever. And then we're not building the ships like we need to.
Well, and the danger,
and they're going to catch up to us real soon. So we're going to have Japan, in World War II, where you literally have they need resources. So what they do is they start a world war to go get resources.
The danger with China isn't necessarily the ships, though, as much as the missiles. They are packing their coasts with missiles so that they can overwhelm our systems. Because remember, there's always a limit to the number of missiles a ship, or anti-missispecials or anti.
And how are we going to lose one carrier with 3,000 people on it? So what we need to do is coming up with the next generation. Now he says he's going to spend. He spent $700 billion. I love Trump. Trump is the greatest president we ever had. He understands business like nobody, like no other president we've ever had. But the problem is, if there's a weakness in Trump, he believes the generals. And as
he believes them, yeah.
And as the great Luigi F. Baldini would tell you,
who had his own several run-ins with
the generals,
yeah.
But who General Abrams loved, right? Will tell you that to be a general, promoted to generalhood in non-war times, you are a political general, meaning you're risk aversive, you're backslapping, and what are the other characteristics? You're
a bean counter.
A bean counter, right? Whereas if you're a Grant or a Sherman,
I think they call that feather merchant, John.
You're the exact opposite. You're risk. You take risks. You don't care about this, and your mission centered.
Rear echelon.
Right. Yeah. So he listens to the generals, and so they're buying these high cost. Instead of focusing on what we need to do is to start getting the next generations of warfare that are actually going to work.
The next New Jerseys, the battleship in its day.
Maybe New Jerseys. Bring back New Jerseys.
The next kind of carrier. It's not a carrier. It's just like the battleship was the mainstay of the navies, and the carrier replaced it. It's what's going to replace the carrier, because the carrier, as you mentioned, is there. Its day is too vulnerable an asset to be sitting on top of the water and to be able to be hit at any time.
So that's what they should be focusing on, building the next generations of that, or fast patrol boats that can move at like 50, 60 knots.
That can strike
with a ship killer, and then
launch drones.
Right. Yeah.
You could have small ships like that swarm.
PT boats, like those PT boats that they used to be, but now you slap a ship killer on it, and there you go.
Well, not even.
A range of 500 miles or something.
And you can have it launch from your ship and return. We do have
a tender, some kind of tender version, and then they'll be automated. At any time. Did you see that Atlas that they have? That robot? It can do backflips.
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh boy, that day is coming. The Terminator day is coming.
Well, they say by 2050 you will be able to live to 120, and artificial intelligence, which by the way is running the Chinese. Artificial intelligence is running the Chinese credit system, because they have cameras all over the place and they monitor you.
Wow.
They monitor your activities. They identify you. They notice what you're doing.
Facial recognition.
Yeah.
Wow.
That artificial intelligence, which is dominating this system, is going to be by 2040 on par with human interaction.
It is a democratic a dream.
Yeah, they will have a.
It's a Democratic Party dream.
And we have to stop it, brother.
Yeah. Wait. What? How come it's not coming up?
No power in this universe can stop Operation Inferno to be put into execution.
Is that what this is for them? Operation
Priority
Inferno?
alert. Invaders to be located and...
Right, destroyed. Right. All right. So is that time?
That's the
time,
brother. We're gonna go out with our one of our earlier ones that we used when we just come back. So, on that note,
what's your view on homosexuality?
Yeah, I am mindful that we're all sinners, and I caution those who may try to take the speck out of their neighbor's eye when they got a log in their own. The great threat to civilization is that a few evil men will multiply.
Worse than horrible, because a zombie has no will of his own. You see them sometimes walking around blindly with dead eyes, following orders, not knowing what they do, not caring. You mean like Democrats?
The fact that somebody decided that they would go ahead and leak classified information.
Failure to communicate.
¿Qué usted puede ayudar?
Yeah, you don't need papers for voting. You don't need to be a registered voter to help.
Now, this is worse than a third world country.
I'm beginning to smell a big fat commie rat.
I've still not been accused of anything wrong because I haven't done anything wrong. And I'm not going to do anything wrong.
We're rich. We're filthy with dough. You're filthy without it.
Okay, this guy is the real zero.
I think there's some kind of deviated pre-birth. My mission is to protect you.
If you don't trust the man you're working with, you're as good as dead.
Governor Reagan again, typically, is against such a proposal.
Governor, there you go again.
Government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem.
Our government is too big and it spends too much.
And that, my friends, is called integrity.
You want to survive bad enough to stop me? Or are you reliant on my generosity, my love of humanity to stop me from killing you? The only thing between you and the POW camp is what you learned from me.
Any of this getting through to you, son? The aggressive impulses of an evil empire. They are the focus of evil in the modern world.
We will go on the offense and we will defend our freedom.
Now that's the stuff leaders should be made of.